Okay, friends, this is day one of our online Bible study with the book of James. I am recording this on a cold, snowy day in Dallas a couple days before we put this out. So I hope if you're in Dallas that you're staying warm. Okay, I'm going to hit a couple of things today. We're going to talk about the book of James as a whole, and then we're going to talk about the beginning, just a little bit of the first few verses. And whether you've been a part of these studies before or this is your first one, that you're just going to dive right in and see how this book can influence your life. Okay, so the book of James is written by a guy named James, who some scholars are going to believe is the actual half-brother of Jesus. Others are going to believe that he's like a spiritual brother. He's someone who's really close with Jesus. Regardless, this is someone who knew Jesus well. And James is bringing together two strands of thought. As he's writing this book to encourage other early Christians, he is bringing in the wisdom of the Old Testament, the first 39 books of the Bible. He's bringing in that wisdom, and he's bringing in the new wisdom for him of the teachings of Jesus. So both of those things are influencing him as he's giving advice to people who are also early in this faith and believing in the way of Jesus. So with that said, let's take a look at some of the first things that he says. The first verse is just who it's from and who it's to. Then we get into verse 2. Count it all joy, my brothers. Now, when he says brothers, that is a gender neutral term. It's like you walking into a room and saying, hey guys, and that a guy in the singular is a gender specific term, but many people will use guy in the plural form, guys, to just mean whoever's in the room, right? So it's a gender neutral term. It's not just about men. So count it all joy, just as easily translated, my brothers and sisters, when you meet trials of various kinds. So what does this tell us right off the bat? He doesn't start out saying, congratulations. He doesn't start out saying, hey, I'm happy for you. He starts out addressing trials, which means that the letter that he is writing is to people who are experiencing what? Difficult times, trials. And he says, when you meet these kinds of trials, count it all what? Joy. Well, that seems crazy. I mean, why would I be joy-filled in the midst of trials? I'll tell you, this verse the other day when I was reading it just devotionally really pushed it on me, because it was a reminder that even in the midst of hardship, I can find joy. That even in the midst of hardship, I don't have to just look at that hardship as something that I wish would go away. It doesn't mean that I look at that just as a negative, but I can look for the good in the midst of it. It doesn't mean that I have to want that trial to be there. I can want it to go away, but he's saying, also look for the joy in the midst of it. How can we do that? We'll look at the next part of the sentence. For, or because, you can find joy in the midst of hardship, because you know that the testing of your faith produces steadfastness. The trials produce a testing of our faith, and that produces strength in us. It doesn't mean that God causes them. We actually get to that later in the book. But God certainly allows them. And do we believe that in the midst of that testing, in the midst of that hardship, that it can actually strengthen us? And let steadfastness have its full effect, that you may be perfected and complete, lacking in nothing. The word perfect here is the same word that Jesus uses in the Sermon on the Mount. It doesn't mean to be perfect in every sense. It means to be whole, to be complete, to be conformed to the manner in which we were created to be. Which Jesus says the end of all of this is to fully love God and fully love other people. So it means to be transformed in that way. So what he's saying is, look, in the midst of the hardship, look for how God is working. I mean, sometimes the trials, they're like sandpaper that hurt, but yet they actually form us and they mold us, and it's leading me to ask myself, okay, in the midst of difficult things that I'm facing, do I have my eyes on what God might be doing in the midst of this? And I want to encourage you with that. And whatever hardship you're in, it doesn't mean that you have to believe that the hardship is good. In fact, you can pray, and I hope that you do pray, that the hardship will pass. But in the midst of that, I also hope that you pray, God, how are you using this to mold me and to shape me? God, stick with this book, friends. We're going to have these videos every day this week. And I hope that they will just inspire you, not in and of themselves, because they'll help you see the scripture in maybe a little bit different way. So keep with it. God bless you, friends, and we'll see you soon.